So, welcome to everybody. Good morning. Thanks for coming. And I will be brief in the introduction. So this session is dedicated to the European Copernicus program. As most of you know, the Copernicus program is a regulation that is up and running since almost 20 years, more or less. So it starts with the Baveno. And for this, we have invited Mauro Facchini, that is the head of the unit of the Earth observation in DG DEFIS, to introduce what Copernicus is and what Copernicus is going to achieve in the next future. Then the section will deal with the Italian strategy and all the activities that are related to Copernicus in Italy. We have invited also the coordinator of the Copernicus Academy, Professor De Bernardinis, of the Copernicus Relay, that is Serena Giraldini, and also the national delegate to Destination Earth, Dr. Claudia D'Amelio, because we see a lot of link between Copernicus and Destination Earth, but has to be clear what is also the Italian position in that direction. And the session would like to have this, comprehensive approach, linking and showing what is, the Copernicus evolution, Copernicus state of the art, what are the huge activities that are running in Italy right now, and how Italy is seeing the link between Copernicus and Destination Earth. But to make the short story, I'm very happy to give the floor to Mauro Facchini, that is the head of the unit of Copernicus. Mauro, you can stay from here or go there, as you prefer.
Yes, hello. So I prefer to be here so I can see my slides and what I'm saying, because if not, I would have had the slides on the back, so I couldn't say that. I couldn't see that. So, buongiorno. It's useful for me to speak Italian from time to time, even though today I will speak in English as usual. So it's a pleasure to be here in ASI. I think it has been at least 3 years I've not been here with the pandemic, so I think it's all one of the nice things now to be back in presence in all these events and to see people in 3D, as we used to say. Today I would like to give you an idea of Copernicus. I put just the word Copernicus just to give you an introduction of that for those that are not very familiar, but also for those that are familiar to understand what are the novelties that we are planning in the next. So Copernicus has now so we have a new space program. It's in place since 2021, and this space program is including 4 big elements. It's about Earth observation, Copernicus, navigation, Galileo. It's about EGNOS. It's about SSA, and it's about GovSatcom, taking also into account that a new element called secure connectivity that is partly, I would say, GovSatcom is also taking shape. These are the programs that are covered by the space regulation. Indeed, here Copernicus is the part that I will present, but it's not just the programs, but also what are the drivers that are included into that. So we are looking very much to a competitive edge, so to become more and more competitive at world level. So Copernicus is recognized to be a success, is very well appreciated, but it's very important to be competitive also from the industrial point of view. It's about research and innovation, so this is very much pertinent to what we discussed today. So in order to remain at the highest level of innovation, we have really to invest in research, to promote new things, and to remain really all the time at the highest level of technology. We have to look into main drivers, and clearly climate change is one of these, but not the only one. It's also other, like digitalization is about resilience and so on. And we have also to remain an important actor at the global level, so really being an actor that can play in the international scene. Why Copernicus? Again, we are not doing Copernicus because we are a space agency, and I'm happy to say that here, that we are in the site of a space agency. There are other space agencies that are more pertinent for that, indeed ASI for Italy, but we work a lot with the European Space Agency and so on. The real reason why we did Copernicus is because it's a tool that can be used in support of different policies. So the European Commission decided to invest into that, and you see here some of this is from the environment, the climate change, the emergencies, and so on. This is, in brief, what the architecture of Copernicus. Most of you already know that. So the most important point is, I would say, the block in the center where you see the services. I will come a little bit later on that. And in order to provide services and added value products that you see at the bottom of the slide, we need inputs. And the inputs are satellites. Satellites can be the Sentinels that are really financed and by the program. They can be contributing missions on the top right. That are missions coming from the commercial sector or from the national capacities. Just to speak something in Italy, we can speak also of Cosmos SkyMed, for example, but also in situ data. And all these are injected into these black boxes that are these services in order to generate products and information that are useful for different communities. So, as I said, the services, we have 6 services mostly that have been organized. We have land monitoring, climate change, emergency management, security, maritime monitoring, and atmosphere monitoring. These are the 6 that have been generated and are still the 6 main products and 6 main services that we are generating at this moment. So where are we today? If we want to give some numbers, so as we said, we have 6 Copernicus services. We have 7 Copernicus Sentinels in orbit, and still other to come. We have actionable information that is really generated for the users with 16 terabytes of full, free, and open data every day. And we have users that are increasing. Here we have a number of 3,000, but this is underestimated. I mean, these numbers, the 16 terabytes and the 300,000 are much higher today. So these are really underestimated at this moment in time. But just to give you some figures about the program. What have been the main steps for that? I will not go through all of that. Simply to say that it started with an idea in '98. It was called Baveno Manifesto. It was actually a meeting that happened on the shores of the Lago Maggiore in the north of Italy, where the concept was really set up. It was initially called GMES, Global Monitoring for Environment and Security, but then it took shape, and in 2012, 2013, it became Copernicus. Until then, we were mostly on the research and development side, but since 2014, we have an operational service. So we are really generate data in an operational way. And as I said, in 2021, we had a new regulation, so what we can call the evolution of Copernicus. So we are moving in Copernicus 2.0, if I may say so. This is somehow the flow of the financing, and you see in the blue part the different kinds of activity that have been put into place. Until 2014, it was mostly research and development, preparatory actions, initial operations, and all that was more or less in the range of 1.3 billion euros, and most of that financed by research projects, FP6 and FP7. But starting from 2014, we really enter, as I said, in the operational program with 4.3 billion euros between 2014 and 2020. And from 2020 and over and more, we have 4.8 billion, so until 2027. This is in 2018 economic conditions. If we speak about current economic conditions, this amount is around 5.4 billion euros. And most of that is financed by the space program. But apart from that, Horizon Europe is still continuing to finance about research activities, Maybe my colleague might also correct me, but I think we have 1.4 billion that are devoted to space in the 1.7 billion that are devoted to space in Horizon Europe, but not all for Earth observation. They are for different aspects, and part of that is also for the evolution of space activities. We have also to say that ESA contributes with additional 25-30% of the budget. So the share in the financing of Copernicus is more or less 75-70% on the side of European Commission and 25-30% on the side of ESA, and the financing of ESA is mostly on the development of the satellites. So Copernicus 1.0 is what we have, what we had until now, but also we have to look into Copernicus 2.0. So what we want, where do we want to go? We have two drivers. The first one is the continuation. Why the continuation? Is because we have prepared and we have set up a full ecosystem of users that want a continuation of data. And when we speak about users, are really users of different communities, but are also industrial users. So SMEs and the downstream market that has started to create some business based on Copernicus data. And if today we stop those data, I think most of these companies would be in trouble. So we have really to ensure that there is a continuation of the flow of this information. But at the same time, if we want to remain competitive and we want to remain a project that is at very high level in the world, we have to invest into evolution. And evolution looking into new technologies, new capacities, new drivers, and what really is needed by also new users. What does it mean, evolution? So we can look at Copernicus as four different dimensions. Data acquisition is the first one. Then the services, how the data that are acquired are transformed into actionable information. Third, how this information can be accessed and can be distributed. And fourth, how it can improve and stimulate the users to use this data. So these are the four dimensions. Let's see now what are the plans in the evolution of Copernicus in order to improve all these four elements. So the first part is, indeed, we want to continue with the data, but at the same time, we want to introduce more and more agile observations and with new spaces. So we want, in that way, enhance the performance of the acquisitions of the different data, reduce the dependencies. Still today, there are some cases where data that are needed for some services have to be bought outside of Europe, simply because we don't have a European capacity, but we have to create this capacity. We have to amplify observation potential, meaning that we have also to look into new instruments that could observe things that Copernicus cannot observe today. We are speaking about thermal infrared, CO2 monitoring, and other elements. And then hybrid constellations, meaning that we would like to put together the sentinels that will remain as a backbone, but together with that, other constellations that could work in synergy as part of hybrid constellations. So just to be very brief, these are the sentinels families. I will not get into that. I imagine that the presentation will be distributed, but you can find this information also in different websites. If you go to copernicus.eu, then you can find that. So the family of the current sentinels. Beyond that, we are looking into 6 new missions that are planned to be launched. One is about CO2 monitoring. It's planned to be launched by the end of 2025, beginning of 2026, in order to see anthropogenic CO2 emission. This is the novelty. It's not just the distribution of CO2 in the upper atmosphere, but really the localization of the anthropogenic emissions. Then we have Crystal, that is a Copernicus polar ice and snow topography altimeter. It's more or less the continuation of other missions that were existing in the past. LSTM, that is finally covering a gap that was not available today, so it's land surface temperature monitoring. Roselle is an L-band synthetic aperture radar. CHIME is an hyperspectral imaging mission. And SIMMER is a Copernicus imaging microwave radiometer. All these 6 satellites are under development. The research is ongoing. We are cooperating with ESA for that. And in the next 10 years, these satellites will be finalized and will be launched to observe new things, with CO2 probably being the first one to be launched. So we have seen the Sentinels, we have seen the new expansion missions, the 6 expansion missions. Now the new space is the third element. New space is really a way to better introduce also the commercial sector. But it's not simply the commercial sector by buying what they're doing, but also integrating the commercial sector in the definition and also in the planning of their missions in order that they can be compatible with our needs for the future. So that actually the Sentinels and the expansion missions can work in a synergy together with these missions. And so the idea is that in the medium term, we get to this hybrid constellation where we have the Copernicus Sentinels, so very high quality satellites that will remain a reference, the expansion missions that are on the bottom. I put the word green because they're mostly responding to green needs, so to aspects related to the environment. And then new space that will have the advantage, in particular, to be more agile. So we have a constellation of smaller satellites with higher number, so where we can have higher resolution, higher revisit time, so really be more agile and be useful in some of the services. All these working together would go towards a Copernicus hybrid constellation. Again, the horizon for that is towards the end of this decade, 2030, in some way. Second, the second dimension is about the services. What kind of innovation we want in that? For sure, we want to be more digital, so integrate faster with digital, artificial intelligence, high-performance computing. So these are tools that are getting more and more in different technologies. So it would be strange that a space technology that is at highest level of technology would not integrate them. And so digital technologies have to be integrated as much as possible in this evolution. Second, we have to respond more and more to policy drivers, and in particular the Green Deal objectives. So all the environmental pressure, climate change pressure, really to put all the information that is generated by the services to respond more and more to legislation and to drivers that are to reach the Green Deal objective. We have also to increase the support to resilience need. We call that governmental service. This is mostly driven by the experience that we have gained in the last 2-3 years with the COVID crisis, now the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, where there is really a need to have access to data that are necessary to some governments, to some institutions and so on, most probably in a more confidential way, but that could really respond to some needs that cannot be covered today. And a little bit link also to the second bullet point, so the Green Deal objective, more support, not just to EU policies, but also to national policies. Really, that Copernicus or the space technologies are not a nice space toy for those who love space, but really a tool that could be used really for policymakers more and more. So, and for this reason, as I said, we have to keep it up with the technological state of the art. We need additional public service, mostly in the field of security and defense, quicker intelligence analysis, for example, also to look, if possible, into internal security, breaches of EU legislation, urgent emergency situation, but also to use for some legal, in support of legislation, really, information products, both for EU and national policies. So we have seen the second block. Now we go to the third block, access and distribution. What can we do in that respect? We have, first of all, to develop integrated data management. We are actually, sometimes we say, Copernicus is Sentinels. This is very limiting. It's a source of very and disparate number of information coming from satellites, coming from drones, coming from airplanes, coming from in situ capacities, high altitude platforms, and so on. So all these elements have to be integrated more and more in order to feed the services and generate products that are more and more complete. But it's not just acquiring the data, but it's also streamline the data platform. So it's very nice to have huge amounts of data, but we have also to store them and to distribute them and to make it easily accessible to the user. So we have really to look in how to do that. There has been a process with the DIAS, with the data and information access systems, where we had this capacity. We had 4, 5 platforms, and now we are moving based on that experience towards a bigger one. It's called a DAS that will take shape next year. So it's a data access system that will most probably be better than what was done in the past. And third bullet point, but I will not go too much into that, is really how we can integrate with Destination Earth. So how the experience that has been created with Copernicus could really work in synergy with the initiative about Destination Earth. So again, summarizing, the key challenges sometimes is the fragmentation of dissemination infrastructure, lack of large European cloud integrators, limited business development outside Europe, business model structures, and so on. So we have to create something that is stronger inside of the EU from this infrastructure point of view, but at the same time that will make our capacity more competitive towards the outside world. It's a part of the program that where probably we are a little bit weaker with respect to non-EU participants, because indeed, if we look at data systems like Google or like Amazon and so on, we are not at that level yet, and there I think we have to catch up in the future. And then the fourth block, user uptake, and again, colleagues after me will speak a lot about user uptake. We have to continue to anticipate the user needs, to use space data to transform different ecosystems. Again, we are not doing space for space, we are doing space for users, and we have different ecosystems, and these ecosystems, even if they are not specialists in the use of data or space data, they have to learn what we can do from their side, and from our side, we have to make this kind of information more digestible for the user. And indeed, also try to develop innovative tools for greater uptake. So for this reason, we have to re-energize the downstream segment of Copernicus, and we have really to push a lot for the development of business opportunities, foster the competitive and innovation potential, establish global leadership in space-based monitoring and decision support products. We have different instruments. We have indeed at national level, a lot that is done. Italy is the example, I can put it also in capital letters, in doing that. With Copernicus Mirror activities. I think it's really an example to follow at European level. And then we have also other resources. So we have USPA, that is the EU Space Agency that can support in that respect. And we have other activities like Cassini. And we have also to invest in skilling and capacity building. There will be a presentation about the role of academy in that respect. And also we have a Copernicus Knowledge Center on Earth observation. So a lot to do in this respect, and I'm sure that colleagues after me will get very much into this. So with this, I close. I gave you a brief overview of what Copernicus is and what we are planning for the next, let's say, 10 years. It's ambitious, but at the same time, we have the tools and we have to do that if we want to keep the program at the level it is today. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mauro. I will put all the questions at the end so we can try to recover of the shortness. So I was pretty happy about what Mauro was presenting, because all the presentations that are coming after are totally linked to what he presented, and it was not in agreement, so it's good. So I also thanks ASI for hosting this and APRE for supporting all this implementation, because we know that is quite complicated. So based on what Mauro has presented, I will try to present what Italy was doing, is doing, and is going to do in the next 10 years. That is, quite a similar roadmap, but really linked to what we discussed at European level in the Copernicus Committee and the Copernicus User Forum. So, a quick overview. Mauro presented what the space governance is at European level. So you have the European Commission, but then you have the User Forum, the committee, and all the entrusted entities that are dealing with the upstream part, the downstream part, and of course also the in-situ data. I'm happy to share for the people that didn't know exactly what is the state of the art in Italy, that we have sort of replicated with a primary law. So right now in Italy there's a, let's say, a interministerial space committee that is coordinated by the Prime Minister. And then we have the User Forum and office space in the Presidents of Council cabinet. And this is really important because I really would like to underline, as Mauro has well presented, this is not only rocket science, it's way much more. It's all about like downstreaming, institutional services, market, it's about in-situ data, about modeling, and so on. So it's including a lot of space science, but it's not only this. So it needs a coordination scheme. So we have quite strong coordination in Europe, and right now quite strong coordination in Italy, and this is a value added. So you have a network that is including GASI, is including APRE, is including all the ministries. So also the research system. Today we are discussing about research, and we see that we need to have this coordination, so also research can deal with this structure. And just, again, a quick overview that Mauro already presented, but the very important thing of Copernicus is the fact that we have a change of paradigm. So science was pushing, of course, technology, new satellite, new technological development, but the change of paradigm of Copernicus is the fact that the user requirements is at the center. And of course, it's complicated to ask what is needed, what is the gap that has to be developed, also by research. So it's institutional users, but not only institutional users, it's also private users. What we are doing in Italy, and Mauro was presented the new space approach, is the fact that the requirements can be also from private sector, but not the aerospace sector. These are requirements for technology. What we need is what is the requirements in the private sector in how to use and how to exploit this type of data. So we have set up this user forum in Italy, and I'm not going to the details, but you see that we try to cover all the areas that can be, interested in the space sector. And in almost 10, 14 years, we have more than 900 participants into the user forum and to the working table of the user forum. And again, Mauro was presenting the uptake part. This was made, and we are thanks to the fact that European Commission was supporting with funding how to create a permanent national working group for the user forum. So again, this is a FPCAP project that allow Italy really to have the way to build up that. And you see, the user forum is incarnated into the, again, into the Prime Minister cabinet. So again, all the discussion are bring to the attention to the government. And even if the government is changing, this is not a problem right now, because then we have the committee, the office, and then all the agencies involved in that. And again, I'm always happy to have space agency and so on, because they bring way much more, background to this discussion. So this is done because it's, as I was saying, it's complicated to get the user requirements to make an analysis, because if you go to the users, they only want something very complicated, or that is not possible. I want the moon. That's more or less sometimes what the user asks. But then there's a process now consolidated, and you see that it is really linked to research. We had developed at the user forum several research papers how to clusterize and how to sort of like translate user requirements to something that can be used for the upstream part and for the downstream segment. And this is really important. And what the user forum was producing, it's a reference documentation that built up the national plan for the development of Earth observation capabilities in all the sector, upstream, midstream, and downstream. I'm making this just because, of course, the pandemic was, a huge impact in the member state. But then we all know that it allowed Italy to have the next generation EU funding. So we had already, prepared a plan for this development that is the base of a huge investment in Italy related to Copernicus. So the important thing is that at national level, we have identified what are national operational services that need to be not reinvented, but need to be improved at national level, because Mauro was underlying that at European level, one of the problems is the scatter of the distribution of the different platforms, different services, So what was done in Italy was really try to find a common way in order to improve, not reinventing. So also research has to discuss with users what is really needed in terms of like what is going to be developed. And we will see briefly that all the different, we call the PNRR, but it's the next generation EU, it's really related to all this giant work. And I'm happy, and why and how we see, how we can go as a contribution from Italy, from Copernicus 1.0 to Copernicus 2.0. So I had the chance to grab some, not ideas, but some slides that Mauro was presenting. So interaction with new space is, of course, interaction of buying, new data and information from, let's say, new satellite constellation, but not only that. It's really interacting, so it's data buy, but also service buy. Again, it's not only we build a new satellite constellation and we sell the data. We are developing services that can be of interest also from other member states and the European Commission itself. So it's a matter of like co-design, as Mauro was really underlying. And so increasing involvement in architectural design and in uptake strategies. Again, I'm underlying this, and I asked to the coordinator of Copernicus Relay, the Copernicus Academy, because this is a huge gap that we still have to cover. It's a long roadmap. So just to make some example, I took the same slides, but when Mauro was saying, it's a continuation, so the reference is the core services. Maybe there will be new services, or maybe there will be some thematic hub as the European Commission. And as Italy, we have really worked a lot with the user forum working table and with the Copernicus Relay network to, let's say, suggest and support several thematic hubs that goes from coastal to agricultural, cultural heritage, and so on. So this is something that it's bring to the attention to the European Commission, and then European Commission developed and decide with the agreement of member states how to proceed in extending the actual core services, but also, finding if there's a need of a new institutional, and Mauro was already presenting. So based on that, and based on this huge work, there's a huge opportunity also for research, because right now we have, a huge funding that goes from the next generation that is delivered by the Ministry of Ecological Transition. I don't know if it's the right name right now, but I still keep the old one. Ministry of, it was the Digital Transition, the Ministry of Research. And we have like the Ministry of Sustainable Development, the 3 years plan for the different agencies like ASI, but also ISPRA and so on. So this is a total amount for the next 3 years, also to developing research of about 4.5 billion in Italy for the next 3 years and a half. So it's a giant investment. And we are more than happy that was based on the interaction of the discussion with the European Commission and the giant work of the user forum. But the problem is the fact that we have a short time, and we really need a lot of people working both in the institutional and the private sector. I'm not going in details, so you will have the presentation to share, And these are, the core business that all these next generation EU are going to implement in the next 3 years. And you can imagine how much also research development is in need. But the important thing is the fact that the research has really to discuss in terms of like user requirements and user need. Otherwise, we are going to produce a lot of like platform, a lot of like good ideas that are not going to, communicate. Of course, I must think that most of the people that are attending here today, they know that there is this IRIDE investment. That is not only a constellation. Of course, it's 900 million for a new constellation again, but it's not only that. It's developing a lot of the downstream. So it's only 900 million, the new constellation. The other part, it's all about downstreaming services and marketplace. So the paradigm is well written. So we have only 1 billion for the upstream, and we have almost 3 million for the downstream. Because if you don't have a downstream market well robust, then you have something missing. So you still keep, launching new satellite that nobody is going to use. So new data needs skills that has to be in charge to understand how to use that into the downstreaming market. So this is just, a final sort of schematization of what is under development. And you see that everything has to deal with upstream, midstream, and downstream services. So the point is how we can also interact with the European level. So we had several, ministerial meetings really to find a way not to duplicate only platform, but which funding is going to, develop in situ, telecommunication, and so on, and which funding are going to develop the platform based on the fact that it's becoming more and more clear, also from the experience of Copernicus, that there's not going to be a one-shop platform for everything. So also Google and Amazon are facing the fact that you need to have an ecosystem producing data and information. So it's a different concept that has to include also the ideas and what is already on the market. But the important part is that it is user-driven. Another important part in the user forum is the fact that you have two different types of action. You have the industrial action and what is the public institution accompanying action. And in that, please don't forget that also the next generation EU that is funded by the Ministry of Research is really linked to that. So it has to be really discussed in that sense. So the user forum is a sort of like mechanism that allow different program plans to be, discussed within the thematic tables. That's why it's important to have 900 people, or I don't want to stress the number, it's 900 representatives, because then behind all these people there are a lot of other persons that can really contribute that. And of course, it's important to have a provider consultation. It's important also what the industry can already deliver or not. So this is a living, not only living document, a living mechanism. And I grab another slide from Professor De Bertolini. He will go directly in that, because the fourth component, the user uptake, is really important, and is important in all the part. And I'm going to finish, but this is going to be, the introduction of the other presentation, is the fact that, as I was saying, at European level and at national level, we have something around like 10 billion of investment. Do we have enough people, and do the enterprise and industry really know about that? This is really important. So the uptake strategies really need to, and I don't want to steal everything, but in 2001 it was cited, and in 2014, but in the new space program, it's something that is an article in the space program. So we need to work in that. So based on that, the Academy has worked for proposing strategies, and you will learn about these strategies in details later on. But it's important, and I will go very fast, in the fact that we already know that there was a gap. So we are creating in Italy, and this is something really related to research, of already 3 national PhD programs with already 300 funded positions. And we are already facing the reality, we don't have 300 people per year applying for a PhD program. So we have to attract from outside. So there's a national PhD program on Earth observation, there's a national PhD program in climate sustainability, and there's a national PhD program on space and science and technology. Again, 300 funded positions. This is really important, but again, we don't have time. We need to have also something related to a master program, and that's why I'm happy. So this is really related to research, and this is already up and running. But the important part is the fact that when you do this, you need to work with European level. So what we are finalizing, we already have a memorandum of understanding with ECNWF, a memorandum of understanding with ESA, but we are going to build a memorandum of understanding with all entrusted entities. So they need to work at the European level, need to work in this roadmap with the member state. This is a really important message. And for doing research, I think this is the time. Thanks for your attention.
Good morning, I'm Serena Geraldini. I work at ISPRA, and ISPRA is the Italian Institute for Environmental Protection and Research. ISPRA supports the National Copernicus User Forum, and I'm the coordinator of the valorization board in the context of the Copernicus User Forum, and one of the coordinators of the National Copernicus Relay Network. My presentation is about the information strategy at national level and the implementation of the network of the national relays. Okay. As shown in the previous presentation, the European strategy for the evolution of the Copernicus programs is to increase the involvement in the architectural design in the different phase and in the different sector, and to increase the uptake of data and services. So the Italian strategy to respond to these goals is the establishment of a valorization, a so-called valorization board in the context of the National User Forum, in which is increase the discussion between the industrial and the research part and the institutional part. And also, this is a problem? I don't know. Okay. There is a problem on the screen? Okay, thank you. And the second national strategy is to increase the uptake of the services and the data with the increase of the national Copernicus Relay Network. Okay. Copernicus is a worldwide successful example with a huge quantity of data information operating products provided freely and free of charge. Copernicus have a high adoption rate for intermediate and technical users, but the adoption rate at not technical, local and regional authorities, public authorities, remain low. This is due to the fact of the fragmentation of the demand that not allow the market penetration, the fact that the end users need of information and not of data, and there is a distance between the offer and the demand. So to bring the offer towards the demand, a technology transfer is needed. The Italian strategy for the Copernicus uptake starts from the needs of the end users, the public end users, the institutions, defining a set of services tailored on institutional users who required innovative product for the institutional task. The anchor tenancy of the institutional market also allow the development of the private and commercial market. The national level is the interface between the national user level and the European level, integrating specific national needs and services into the European one. The European level provides through Copernicus data information to be used as a starting level, but a connection between the national level and the European level is needed. The European market analysis and the user requirement provide a basic level on which we can plan the development of our national system. We have now a different paradigm for the space economy value chain that is user-driven. So the classical technology push concept was replaced by the user demand pool, and the services have to be designed, tailored on user requirement, and also the technology that allow the data acquisition must be user requirements driven. So in this context, we have to define the players that have a key role in this process, and the involvement of the various actors with different skills in the different sectors of the entire value chain have to be defined in the different sectors, so in the up, mid, and downstream. And this is very important to build a solid and inclusive market. With this aim, in the context of the National User Forum, a valorization board was established to enable the discussion between institutional, industrial, and research players, and to maximize the development efficiency of operational services and their impact on the market by involving the various players in the different sectors. So an ecosystem has been created and updated, and the aim of the table is to increase the awareness within the entire ecosystem and identify the user need. User need, not only the public user need, but also the commercial ones. So engage the companies from multiple industry sectors, not only the geospatial industry, but also other skills are needed to build the business models. the financial investor, the insurance, the multi-utilities, the ICT, and so on. And the scope of the board is to define the skill of each actors. Moreover, the board has the aim to enable the internationalization of the program and increase the market, not only the national market, but also the penetration in the international ones. The activities of the valorization board are built on the basis of the Copernicus evolution and the evolution of the services in Copernicus. So new 4 implementation groups in the valorization board were created regarding 4 thematic of interest, of national interest, but also of European interest. The coastal theme, the cultural heritage, Green Deal, energy efficiency and agrometeorology, and the insight situational awareness. So these implementation groups match with the development of the services and the transversal thematic services of the European Commission. This slide shows the meeting held in the context of the valorization working group and the roadmap for the definition of the activities in the implementation groups. So different meetings were held, and the private company, the enterprises belonging to the different implementation groups met with the different thematic tables, the participants of the different thematic tables in the Copernicus user forums to discuss the specific issue and the thematic issue, and to define the demand, the offer, and the players that can play a key role in the process. The activities of the valorization board has been the identification of the ecosystem and the skills, the ecosystem that are the institution, the research, but mainly the industry and the enterprises. The definition of the demand of the market with an analysis of user needs, the definition of the offer of the market, so the product and the services that are in the market now and the evolution of these services, and an analysis of the gap between the demand and the offer. This gap analysis is needed to define the offering target and to identify the innovative services that have to be implemented. Moreover, different operative and business models are being defined, and the pros for the participant in the valorization board is the constant update on the innovative space economy trend, the identification of new solutions having positive implication on the business, and the possibility to contribute as co-developer for new project. This is the players involved in the valorization board, divided in the public institution, research, and commercial players. This is the slide show the distribution all around the country of the national ecosystem that we have at the moment, and we have about 350 40 players that discuss together in this table. So the slide show only an example of few companies, and it isn't representative of all the table. The implementation groups are working to expand the ecosystem, attracting other players with other skills to build the operative and business models and to develop the online of the services and the other sector, such as the definition of technology in the upstream and so on. In particular, we are increasing the presence of the commercial players that can have a role in the commercial demand, such as the energy utility companies, the insurance, and the other commercial companies. As shown before, we have done a definition of the demand with the institutional players, and so 8 thematic services, 8 classes of thematic services were defined on coastal monitoring, air quality, ground motion monitoring and land cover use, hydrometeorology, climate service, water resources, emergency and security services. So we have a list of thematic services that have to be developed. We have done also an analysis of the gap between demand and offer, considering the product and the services in each thematic implementation group and the characteristics, the technical characteristics of each product, and matching them with the technical requirement of each services that are required, that is required by the users, by the institutional users. The valorization board have created and done also a sustainability analysis of the investment in the Earth observation services. This is a work done by different players of the valorization board, and the main issues of the document that has been done is the identification of the national ecosystem. So we have in the document all the institutional and a list of commercial players, an analysis of the Earth observation market on the side of the demand, with the public and private demand, also consider the commercial demand, and an analysis of the offer of the market. Moreover, we have done a financing analysis of the instrument and the programs that are at the moment at national level, public and private programs, and an analysis of the market, not only national but also international market. The strategy we think that the sustainability must contain also the information and training process, as the regulation of the European Parliament says in an article, to promote and facilitate the use of Earth observation data and technologies, we have to include the increase of the Copernicus relays and the Copernicus Academy. A relay is an information point at national, regional or local level, and their tasks are to organize information events and promote data and services uptake for end users' needs, for local end users. And the strategy at national level is the identification of the regional and or thematic cluster, the mapping of the different players and skills belongs the different cluster, networking between regional cluster and thematic board of the user forum, organize informative and thematic events focused on local needs, and connect the Copernicus Academy network for organizing training session. These two slides show the events that have been held only this year. We have done more than 50 events by the relays, the national relays, and also in the context of the FP Cup events, that is the framework partnership agreement on Copernicus user uptake. And so with this project, we have done a lot of information events, and we are increasing them in the next year. Thank you.
Claudia.
Questo così. Thank you. It's okay. Okay, I'm Claudia D'Amelio from the Ministry of Economic Development, Department of Industrial Reconversion and Large Productive Supply Chains, especially in the sector of political for space economy and the industrial and aerospace and the defense and security. And I'm also, together with Professor Taramelli, national delegate in the Destination Health Coordination Group. And my presentation is, I want to reconnect to what has been said just now about the Copernicus program, its importance since it started from the beginning, and is the provider in the world of reliable and trusted Earth observation data. And here are the four main dimensions that were illustrated just before by Mr. Frattini, and that are briefly the continual provision of high-quality data, the uplift of services, the improvement of access to Copernicus data, and the enhancement of Copernicus downstream applications. And these main dimensions will be obtained by new space solutions, that is, new and innovative initiatives, and by increasing the integration with digital and artificial intelligence and high-performing computing technologies, and mainly with the promotion and of new based infrastructure. And in this context, Destination Health Initiative will help to the development of data management tools, simulation, data platforms, and to develop data analytics. And I go in detail in the description the Destination Health Initiative, which is led by the Directorate General for Communication Networks, Content and Technology, and in association with the member states and associated countries. The aim is to develop a very high precision digital model of the Earth, that is the digital twin, that is a digital replica of the highly complex Earth system. And its main objective is to predict and prevent environmental disasters and provide help for risk management, avoid large economic downturns, and reinforce the industrial and technological capabilities in Europe, in the new technologies, support the European policy making and implementation, and as it is part of the European Commission Green Deal and Digital Strategy to achieve the objectives of this transition for climate change, global warming, and so on. It's important to build a trust in science for policy. Okay, it is funded from the European Digital Europe program, and in the next slide I will show the context. And it is an initiative which is realized through a partnership with the European Space Agency, the European Centre for Medium-Range Weather Forecasts, and the EUMETSAT. ESA is in charge of the development of an architecture that has to be based on open, flexible, scalable, and cloud-based, and that shall allow a large number of users to access to observation simulation models, and to allow to develop evidence-based decision-making tools. Another important component is the data lake, that is a pool of data based on a federation of data from different sources, also including socio-economic, many sectors. And this is in charge to EUMETSAT. And we have the ECNWF that is in charge of the development of the digital twin engine, that is to construct a generic software infrastructure that will allow the simulation of a extreme scale, data fusion, simulation, advanced simulation modeling, data handling, and it's okay. For the generation of digital twin. Digital twin just is the simulation at advanced simulation with real time that constrain the models. And the implementation will be performed. The first phase will end in the 2024, and it foresees the realization of the two high priority digital twin, and the first one is the weather-induced and geophysical extremes for helping in risk management strategy and policy, and the climate change adaptation for the impact on climate change. And in this initiative, the engagement of the stakeholders is twofold. We have an open stakeholder dialogue that will be based mainly on regular meetings, workshop, events, forum, and we have a targeted user partnership that are agreements between the relevant entrusted entities, the European, the three entrusted entities, and the partner. These are limited according to allocated resources. And stakeholders are mainly classified in beneficiaries, that are people who use support decision tools, user institutions who have to ingest the output digital twin to provide policy for policy application. Then we have the research and innovation sector that has to develop a sector-specific application, and the technology contributors. And in this slide, I want to show the context of the initiative, and where we can see that the European Commission has funded this initiative, Destination Earth, in the context of also the Digital Europe program funding. Also, we have funding from research activities under Horizon Europe that has to support the evolution of Destination Earth, the EU SPACE program. and the external governance of the initiative is mainly concentrated on the strategic advisory board that is constituted by 18 high-level technical. They provide technical and scientific advice. And we have the destination coordination group, which is mainly devoted to the cooperation and coordination between the member states and the involved entity of the other involved entities. And it is now been defined, the Destiny User Exchange, that should become a forum for participation at different levels that mainly will be mainly engaged regularly with the Copernicus User Forum, because it has to be in strictly connection with the forum to apply the same kind of strategy. Internal governance of the initiative is mainly it involves four Director General of the European Commission, the Research and Innovation, JRC, the FIS, DG Connect, and it's only foresee two inter-service working groups. One for science plan, that is to provide a roadmap identifying future development needs for model-based, to create model-based services. And we have a technology and data working group, because it has to provide, it must be guaranteed the interoperability between the digital infrastructure, because now, as I'll show in the next slide, there is not foresee the duplication, but Destination Earth must contribute to the Copernicus development and upgrade. And it's important the science plan of Destination Earth, because it requires a strong engagement of many different science communities and funding programs. And it has to be developed a digital knowledge ecosystem that takes up and shapes scientific advances to make model-based policy support more effective. And to achieve this vision, the initiative needs to be strongly rooted in science. And so we have, as I said before, it's important to have the synergy across the two programs, because Copernicus, as they have shown before, has a huge investment and provides operational services. Portfolio is now evolving and is mainly service driven. And yeah, we have a scheme of the Copernicus, the entrusted entities, the core service users, and the buyers. But Destination Earth has an investment which is very lower, but it's important because it will allow to create a system, an ecosystem, where the development, where the scientific part has to be developed. And in particular, it aims to provide technology as a service. In fact, the three main components of the initiative must be considered as a service. We have the core service platform that will that should be used as a service to develop advanced simulations, and the data lake is a pool of data coming from in situ measurements and other all type of data, and the digital twin engine where the modeling should be performed at the highest level. And so Destiny is has to boost Copernicus. they are different, is the scientific contribution to further development of Copernicus. And in this slide, it's important to say that Destination Earth will provide the new capabilities that allow users to develop, test, and operate new services. And new services in the sense that they will be built on available operational services, and they will contribute to support the evolution of these services. And so it's important to stress this point, that Destination Earth has to contribute and to the evolution of existing operational services and enabling the widest use of the platform and the data lake and digital twin that will be developed in this initiative. And it's important to stress what is the Italian strategy that has been developed up to now. We have the National Space Economy Strategic Plan, which has been defined by the Ministry of Economic Development. Now is Ministry of Enterprises and made in Italy. And the investment is comparable to the European Copernicus one. And mainly I'll focus on Mirror Copernicus program. And subsequently was introduced the National Resilience and Recovery Plan, which introduces substantial additional resources and to provide, to develop activities which are comparable in terms of content, but much bigger in terms of investment to Destination Earth. And we have Cyber Italy, Data Lake, and now I'll show in the next slide. National Space Economic Plan is the main, one of the main program is the Mirror Copernicus program, which has an industrial part for the realization of the infrastructure enabling the geospatial service market, and is supported, as it was shown before, by the public sector for the accompanying action that shall develop application also used as benchmark for the industrial developments. And the plan leverages on innovative kinds of public-private partnership, a multi-funding approach, and it's important also to stress the anchor tenancy to push for the consolidation of a critical demand to support innovative solutions and services. The National Resilience and Recovery Plan has assigned substantial resources, and we have the Ministry of the University and Research that in some way will develop a core service platform, and is an infrastructure platform that will allow the quantum computing, and in this sector we have the institutional national nuclear physics, and we have an investment in data lake in the Ministry of Ecological Transition, and the development of Cyber Italy will be devoted to develop and provide the model component of most of the model-driven service value chains. We have also, as already illustrated before, the IRIDE constellation that will be unique in its kind, and is based on a number of different sensing techniques and sensing technologies, and is conceived as an augmentation of existing Italian and European systems such as Cosmos SkyMed and Prisma, and Copernicus Sentinels on the European hand, and is a system of systems. It will not rely on a single supplier contractor, but it will on many of them. And this is composed by an upstream segment, an application tool, and toolbox and marketplace. And the investment is huge, and in particular the application and toolbox marketplace will be developed in this context, and was originally foreseen within the Mirror Copernicus program, but has been included in this program, in this step, since its criticality with respect to the success of the program. And which is the Italian strategy in next steps. The main goal at national level is to foster the growth of an ecosystem of developers taking forward increasingly sophisticated simulation tools for the planet digital twin. In particular, we want to stress to focus on the fact that Italy wants to fully participate to the initiative, and basically on what has been built so far, in the sense that it wants to focus and provide a mapping of the infrastructure, models and use cases that have already been developed at national or international level. So because many investment has been already introduced, we want to focalize on what has already been done, avoiding duplication related to the operation of existing services where active players already exist. We want to take the opportunity to develop and validate next generation services with higher reliability, better coverage, nowcasting meteorological services and so on, due to the new technologies and computer advanced performance characteristics. And we want to upgrade predictive modeling capacity, in particular in the transition from static mapping to a more dynamic and interactive one, in the sense that all this data dynamic modeling, we want to try to it's important to help to go in the direction of policy, to produce also maps with the quality index, so to may trust in science for policy. And it's important also to produce use cases, that is the scenarios for the inclusion of the user requirements at national level. And at this point, this is already an approach that has been agreed at European level with other countries. And it's important to take advantage of the operational modalities of the Copernicus National User Forum, and that is structuring, coordinating institution, industrial business, research, and all communities, and to elaborate instances to the European level in order to provide also for the Italian, to ensure that the national effort deployed is emulated at European level. And so in this context, the main objectives of the industrial policy that is developed within the Ministry of Economic Development is to enhance national initiatives by addressing the destination Earth modeling developments, to guarantee that ongoing activities will benefit from this initiative, to provide better coherence and better use between national needs and destination Earth results, and last but not least, to facilitate the national industrial participation to the calls that will be put in by destination Earth. And at more general level, the Department of Industrial Reconversion and Large Productive Supply Chains, in which I'm involved, is looking forward to establish collaboration agreements between national and international organizations for a fruitful cooperation that will bring innovative, we hope will bring innovative and operational tools and application for the sustainable development of our country. That's all my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Claudia. Professor, yes.
May I go? Okay. I'm Professor De Bernardinis. Very happy to be here. And because I'm probably the oldest of the veteran of the Copernicus family nowadays, the last left. And I want to start my speech. Let's see if it works. Okay. I start my speech resuming one of the slides of Andrea, which a slide which I'm very fond of. And probably they left me the last one because my English is the worst of all the others. And at the same time, I usually use just slides to speak on them in order to avoid to read through. But in this case, I really like to go to that old days at the very beginning of GMS, when GMS was called the initiative. It was an initiative like Destination Earth, wasn't a program. And I wanted to stress this point. Probably several of you haven't read through the regulations. And this is something wrong, because the regulation is the framework in which all the interested entities, ESA, as well as ASI, as well as JRC, as well as Mercator, as well all the other interested entities, have to be organized and have to work. So this is quite an important point. But just going back at that time, on the left you have a plot which is just the structure, a general structure of an Earth observation program. As you can see, it's made up by at least 4 components, in my opinion. I haven't written these slides after that I had spoken to Mauro, but it's this. I mean, the last one, the user uptake, is the 4th component of Copernicus. And we fought quite a lot. We have been fighting quite a lot to have this component within GMS and Copernicus, because in 2001, Gerard Brechet, I didn't meet him, but I mean, I think he's one of the most visionary in that time and nowadays as well, referred to GMS initiative as certainly an attempt for Europe to define its own strategy. Is not, he defined that, he said, is not a space program, is not neither a monitoring program, but is just a sort of process. And eventually, he needs an implementation plan. At that time, he said that plan will entail significant efforts to inform user communities and convince them of the relevance and usefulness of this initiative. This is quite an important point. We were in 2001, now we are in 2024, and the first step towards what we call the user uptake, but specifically the training activities, as well and more than information activities, were defined by the regulation, the Copernicus program regulation in 2014. Before then, nobody cared at all about this bit. We all, I mean, me too, I mean, probably. We were talking about research, improving what we call geomatic. Sorry for the Destination Earth, but Destination Earth is nothing more than a part of the geomatic matter, in my opinion. It's the part of simulation, whereas geomatic is made by, for example, remote sensing, geoinformation, simulation, and also very advanced ICT support. This is geomatic. So at the very beginning of GMS, which is the source, the origin of Copernicus, we started with this idea, just to have a sort of integration and a chain between the different components of this program. And actually, this is the chain, the value chain of the program itself. It's quite difficult to define the value of the program without knowing this chain. And this is pitiful things, because we arrived at the other point very important, I talked about geomatic, is the fact that one of the problems that we had to face, and the reason, because we need training, and we need a high educational process before training and training for professionals, is that in order to use GMS before, and now there is Copernicus as well, we need some basic knowledge in remote sensing and in geoinformation. Without this basic knowledge, it's just like to look at a calendar or something like that. We are not able to use the information produced by GMS, by Copernicus. As well, probably, we are not going to be able to, we won't be able to use, for example, information coming from destination Earth. So, as Serena said before, in 2016, so it's not 2014, whereas at the Italian level, the National User Forum started its activities as a relay in 2014. We started before all the other state members our activities in information. So we started this story a long time ago, and we are very proud of this. And we realized that in a certain sense we have been just leading the process at the European level as well. So in his action, I mean, in his communication about European space strategy, the Commission, more or less along with the state members, I have to say, decided to put up an action which called the user uptake action, which was made up by different sub-actions. Two of these are two European networks. The one, Serena's talking already about it, is the relays network. The other is the Copernicus Academy network. Not talking about research. We are talking about high education and training, if you want. And so the Academy is devoted to inform, educate, train, coach, and users, including potential ones. If you go back to that representation, that plot of the chain in a Earth observation program, it's quite clear that you are not able to reach the end users, but also the intermediate users without a user uptake, without any training at all. So far, Serena has already said that the new regulation, the space regulation, even if it puts the space above all the other programs, above Copernicus as well, I'm very upset about this, certainly states that the two European networks are the basic action on which we have to rely on in order to carry on these user uptake activities. So, talking very quickly about what the Copernicus Academy is, we have to say that is devoted to what I said before, but the most important thing is not an academic network, only academic. You can find inside enterprises, you can find public administrations, you can find every sort of subjects. In 2018, I'm not telling you the reasons because probably are not so important, but also not so kind. The National User Forum and the National Delegation decided to put up a national coordination of the few national Copernicus Academy members, of the European network members. There were 16, more or less, all individuals. So the user forum decided to have a sort of coordination, national coordination, and Maria Vittoria Castellani, that you saw in the presentation in the first slide, is along with me the member of the major actor in national coordination of the Copernicus Academy. I decided to have this national coordination for promoting and supporting a synergic activities among these individual members, ensuring a sort of collective representation in the user forum, ensuring relationships with other programs at the European level, the national level. So starting from that, in 2018, we actually asked more than that. The National User Forum delegation, they asked us just to bring them together and to realize what is, we can call that a network, more than a network, is a group of practice, if you want, and which was aimed to the realization of events, new education and training processes, and also different from the usual academic one. We'll show in a few seconds some of them, according to some common formats. So in April of 2022, the number of the member of the national network has grown up to more than 50 members, collective members. When I say collective members, I mean, for example, La Sapienza, different departments, CRAS Center, and others like that. So this network, more or less, let's say, count more than 2,000 members, individual members. It's a quite huge network. And in this period, we have been able, actually, to carry on more than 130 events and attended by more than 1,500 people, which is a really impressive figures, if you want. And you have here some examples of this sort of events. And this is more or less the story. We started in 2019. And after, along with the increasing number of members, we have been realizing individual events at each of the member of the network. And then we started to have a sort of aggregated participation to other actions, like the FP Cup calls for funds, and I have to say that Italy has been succeeded quite a lot in this competition. I think the funds more or less went up to the 30% of the total budget, and the Copernicus Academy has contributed for more than the 1/3 of this success, which is quite an impressive result as well. And then we moved to something, we reached a sort of common soul, if you want, a sort of common sense of team. And so we decided to have some collective tools and initiative. One of these is what I have to talk about today, is the position paper we presented to the National User Forum, and then the delegate has presented to our government. And the position paper, which is a collective product of such a network, is a provision of training tools for a rapid qualifications of professional profiles. Let's say, related to the integrated chain, not only to the space component, only to the midstream component or the downstream component, but the integrated chain of that we may qualify as an Earth observation process. Andrea has already talking about this quite a lot. And in order to have enough profiles to face the problems and the criticities that are coming up from the PNRR, the National Resilience and Recovery Plan programs. And the reason of this is ordinary, verified by all of us. We don't have enough people to face the actual implementation of the national program. We don't have enough people with the right profiles in order to face our ordinary production, scientific production, and commercial and industrial and commercial production. So we are having with a lot of, a huge amount of money without having our arms in order to be able to work it out. So in order to solve this problem, we try all together to put forward this offer. So what we decide is to see how many, for example, how many educational and training activities are on at the national level. So we put up a survey among the members of the national network, and on that, the results of that survey, we built up the offer that I'm going to show you in a few minutes. And surprisingly, in Italy, just in this sector, what I mean, geomatic and geomatic, so I mean geo information and ICT, we are up to 308, more or less now, 320 teaching activities on what I mean that they exist and they are on in this moment. And for more or less 13,000 hours equivalent courses, which is a huge amount. You say, oh, these activities are at the university, but also at private enterprises like Planetech or like Agricolus that you have seen before, which is quite interesting fact. So we decided to put forward 3 different items. The first one was very short term. So the idea is to use what is already on as educational courses or activities or other things like that, and to put them in a sort of qualified and assessed chain, training chain, just for new figures which are useful for what I said before, to have people which are going to answer to our call and which may be usefully used inside the implementation of the project that are going to be proposed in PNR call. And one of these, the second item was for the short term. What I mean, 1 year, 2 years, within the 3 years of the PNR. This is a national master. It's a national master homogeneously qualifying the professional figures, and which is built up with all these bricks all over the country. The third one is for the medium and long term, is a PhD in Earth observation, which is already on, which has been already activated, and I'm going to talk about this very shortly in short term, very short term. Well, about the very short term, just an example. An example outside the academic courses is, for example, the Copernicus Geodata and Satellite Facilities Open School. This is a local, let's say, qualified in team in in the people that may be interested in participating in this sort of training activities. Is supported locally, is just in itself a user uptake, which involves all the local stakeholders, authorities, and different subjects, starting from the local representative of the Copernicus Academy. It takes more or less 6 months to be designed and to be put on and implemented it usually is focused on a specific team, but also maybe more generally, for more generally matter activated. There are just a few examples. The one they are all about agriculture 4.0. For example, the one in Asti was about, for example, the viticulture 4.0 and management of a UNESCO site, which is a cultural heritage. The second one, for example, in 2021 in Perugia was about the sustainability, enterprise sustainability and environmental sustainability in agriculture. But there are two, for example, in 2022 in Campania, in Veneto, about, for example, the carbon cycle in agriculture, or the other one is about the risk management in agriculture. And this is just a very short example of all we can do in order to provide some professional profiles more than high educational profile. Moreover, we have by the 2025 we have to put up 6 more open schools, which may be about agriculture, aquaculture, and urban and coastal management. So the other fact is that the Copernicus Open Schools certify the course in itself. This is quite important because, I mean, it's an official degree as the master one. So if we talk about the master one that we have designed all together, it will be made by at least 4 modules. One is a compulsory basic module. The second one is a specialization module, the laboratory module, and the internship module. All these modules may be followed by the students in a separate way, but I mean the students can get the degree only at the end if they have followed the whole cycle, the master cycle. The most important thing, we are not putting new courses up. So we are carrying out these results by using the bricks of the courses already on in each academic member organization. Academic organization, enterprise organization, public administration as well. We have to find money for this. Nobody cares about it. Nobody cares. Right? The only thing that we are able just to put in order to face the problem and the criticisms of PNR is just to put up a scholarship, 2025 scholarship for PhD. Whereas for our PhD, and we start in 2021, just in order to have a 45 applicants to the PhD, it has been really a huge effort. So it's not this the way. It's not just to put just a huge number of scholarship available when we are not able to already, and we know that we are not able to have such a number of people able just to apply for the PhD itself. So the problem that we have within the public administration, within the enterprise world, is certainly the same that we have in the teaching and the training world. I mean, it is quite important. The benefits are very much immediately obvious. This process made possible qualified personnel available in short notice, 1 year, in 1 year, 3 years, promote something very important, an alignment between the demand and offer, because, I mean, the user are participating in the process, are not outside. They are able just to participate in the second, and in the third, and the fourth module. And this is an interactive way we have been experienced so far. The last one is the PhD. The PhD started, the promotion of the PhD started in 2021. Now, as I said, it's already on. The goal are quite clear, is integrated the competencies already existing, specific work out specific competencies on management competencies, on management administration and law. There is the regulation part, which is a very important one. Nobody cares about that. Let's put up some satellites. Let's put up a constellation. And then how they work within, for example, civil protection framework, legal framework. This is an important point. If you want to develop applications, you have to know the legal framework in which you are going to build up the applications. Otherwise, they don't work at all. And is able to scout potential users, promote the existing, as I said, the existing and design new Earth observation services, and increase the user's competencies. But let's say the strength that we have a very, very large offer of very good competencies at the national level. The weakness is the lack of the proper coordination, and we try to overcome this difficulty. The opportunities that we have the Copernicus Academy network, which is very, very active and very effective on the coordination and on working out events altogether. This is just a list of the partners. You can see there are some participants for example, in the table Serena was talking about, like, for example, as I said, Planetech or Agricolus, Team Dev, and others. And we have been able so far to count more than 45 scholarships without any support by the PNRR, directly offered by and put forward by the participants, which is really a great success. And as I said, there is also in the training activities, in the training courses, there are different roles. For example, universities are methodological courses, public research institutions are in charge of courses on specific topic, and the companies, enterprise, public administration are in charge of specific courses on specific know-how. For example, Civil Protection Department is going to teach how to manage, how to use Earth observation in face and in organizing civil protection response. Conclusions. Well, the National Network Copernicus Academy aims to make coordinated use of the educational activity already in place and available in the country, also optimizing the use of human and financial resources already committed on and or made available through the PNRR. I think is really a huge waste if you are not going to use our competencies or our activities. We are plenty of. We are staying all separated by each other. I mean, that's something pitiful. It's something guilty. We have to organize ourselves. We have to give a sort of common offer. it makes available a complex of competencies that are not only didactic, but also research and operational in a unitary way, broad and also administratively already coordinated. This is a very important thing. Politecnico di Milano is able to speak with Politecnico di Torino, with Sapienza, with Federico II. This is a quite important step. So we live in Copernicus, and so we ask to be allowed to participate in a long-term strategy, not only because only we are bright, we are reliable, but also because the Copernicus Academy network, the Copernicus Academy network at the national level, is defined in European regulation. So it is a tool which has been defined by the Commissioner State members, more than that, by the European Union Parliament, which is the most important thing from the political point of view. Thank you very much indeed.
So, thanks for the speech. We have very few minutes for if there are some questions. Just to break the ice, I hope that we have shown, a quite extensive activities really linked to the European level. And my solicitation is really to have, again, more participants that are coming to the user forum network, to the academy network, and to the relay network. This is really important. The European Commission has made quite a huge strength to build up this network and this structure, and more participants, is a great significance. Is the meaning of really participating in the roadmap. It was important also to show that Italy has a great chance right now, because the next generation youth has give to Italy a great opportunities, but the opportunity has to be taken by Italians. That's really an important part, because research has really to be developed into this streamline. The funding is way much more than expected, and the time frame it's only not even 4 years. So it's time now to make this. And again, it's a great opportunity for Italy. But if this is not going to be developed in a strong link with the European, not only with DigiDefis, there's other people from EDF and so on, then this giant investment will be autistic. We will have a huge development of technology and so on, but then in 4 years, nobody's going to use that. And this is really important. So the investment and the research has to be really linked to that. So what we have, tried to show today is how the network is working, how also, new initiative like Destination Earth, it's something that must not reinvent the wheel, because as Professor De Bernardini was saying, it was already there, the digital twins. It's an evolution, it could be an evolution, and that's why also with Claudia we have discussed that it's important to show that also to the research community that the investment is not even the 5% of what Copernicus is already putting on the table. But it's important, it will be less than 5%, to develop new tools, but this is not going to be the solution. I'm always stressing that all the entrusted entities like ESA and others cannot reinvent the wheel. It's important that it's made within the roadmap that European Commission and the member state agree in the committee. And the same apply at national level. Whatever is going to be developed, we were discussing with Augusto before, now we have a structure, committee and office and so on, where everybody can bring new ideas and new things. And having a network that is working, it's something that improves the impact of Italy. And not, just, single agency or like single researcher. Again, also this is a problem that often happened also in Italy, where like very good researcher, very good professor, very good research team goes directly to the European Commission saying, okay, I'm developing a good platform, a good idea, and so on. But this is, you know, too scattered and doesn't make an impact. Make a single impact that how long it will live, you know, just a few years. So that's what we wanted to communicate today. There's a network that is working pretty well. I'm happy to say, and Mauro is here, that Italy, it's in these things, it's really on the front end, also with other member states. They trust us in that. So let's take the chance. I don't know, I don't see raising hands, also because it's late, but. So, one question.
Good morning. Thank you for the presentation. Very interesting. My name is Roberto Muscinelli from BIP Consulting. So you have outlined the importance to join the forum, no? So how is it possible to be part of the network?
You will have here Irene Rotilio, but you can also talk to Serena, and it's an easy way. Send an email and you will be part of the network. It's not, you know, it's not administrative issues. It will be easy. That's for everybody.
I have a simple question, sorry. So, an important thing that you have outlined in all the speeches is the fact that today the available system, data, databases are for professional users, let me say. So, in the evolution, it's important that non-professional users, such as public sector, will use this data. Do you ever thought about some non-space technology able to monitor what was not going in a good way in the past to improve the future system to download the data? For example, in a commercial market using digital tools, there is the concept of user experience. Currently, you have envisioned something to monitor the user experience on the old platform like DIAS and so on, in order to improve the new one and to stress out the fact that sometimes for non-professional user something is going wrong even if they want to use the available data on the available platforms.
Actually, the discussion is it's rude in that because also this is user requirements, not for, you know, space data, user requirements in general, you know, how to get in the best way the data and how to use that. Yes, of course, the discussion is there, and you know, any contribution to that must be, you know, absolutely in. The boss.
No, thank you very much. No, just a question, because yesterday we had a very detailed presentation of the new work program for Horizon Europe Space, referring to the space part. So I think that maybe I'm trying to interpret the possible needs of the audience. So it could be useful to know maybe which are the invitation to tender that will be issued or have been already issued. In particular, the question is for Mauro Facchini, because clearly there are a lot of predefined beneficiary for the budget of the Copernicus program, but also for the other initiative that has been very well and very well described today. I think that could be useful for all the people that is following us today to know, and maybe to have a reference to the request for tender and invitation to tender that will be issued according to what has been described today. So I don't know if it could be possible to have at the end a list of website where maybe we can find, they can find interesting possibilities and opportunities for them.
Thank you very much, Augusto. I think this is a very good question. I know that in the past we had the same issue, and we had foreseen that there was a single portal where it was possible to see all the ITTs that were foreseen from the different trusted entities. I didn't check recently if this is still happening. I will check. I think this is quite important, as you say, to respond to these requirements. I may use this opportunity also for another point, because here we're speaking a lot about research. We said that the space part of Horizon Europe is just 1.7 billion, and out of that, I don't know, 200, 300 million, I don't know, for Earth observation. It would be wrong just to say this is the only part that could support what we're doing. The challenge we have is really to go in other parts of Horizon Europe: health, climate change, agriculture, food security, and so on. Because we have to change the paradigm. It's not just the space that has to pay to serve, but it's the user that has to pay for the development of products in their respect. And for this, we are starting a process really to see what are the potential requests by different parts of user, EU policies, and so on, and then to impose in other calls also the use of Earth observation or space technologies in what is needed. So there will be other sources, and it can be a really multiplication factor by 3, 4, 5 times of this amount of money that we have today just on the space part.
I can add, based on that, that the example that I was showing of the Ministry of Ecological Transition is paying 900 million in terms of like funding, not for space, for services that has to take into account the Earth observation component. So the change of paradigm in Italy was done. Of course, we have to pay attention that they are not going to overlap to what the space segment is already funding in terms of developing new tools for monitoring. So that's why it is important to have a coordination and really have the discussion. But the paradigm is already there, and I'm happy to see that also the European Commission is trying to driving this. Just a quick add, one of the most important, at least for Italy, but also for other member states, and we have discussed with Mauro a lot, it's convincing also European Commission and the DG related to the cultural heritage to put some money for that. Not only space that is putting money for developing tools in terms of like developing Copernicus services for cultural heritage, but how much. And this, again, is a change of paradigm that is it already happened in Italy. The Ministry of Culture have put 20 million in order to develop a system for monitoring and dealing with a cultural heritage using Earth observation. So putting in their interest the Earth observation component and the in situ component.
May I ask a provocative question to all of you, to the audience? How many of you have you heard anything about Copernicus Academy, relays? Could you just show us how many? Nobody? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? That's it. Can you imagine that to have a program of 4 billions, or actually at the European level of more than 16 billions altogether since the very beginning, investment, without with anybody knowing anything about its own organization, anybody worrying about the training and the development of the user community, the users community, or the market, or other things like that. This is quite an impressive thing. We are talking about billions of euros. I'm from Genoa, and the money is something very valuable for me. So I think it's quite impressive that nobody cares about the fact how we are going to make a good value from our investment. If we need to use Earth observation in agriculture, it's not only question of research. It's certainly is question of research, but it also is question just to have to raise awareness, to raise the basic knowledge that are needed in order to use what we are producing, starting from research, going down to developing a lot of amount of effort from the operational point of view as well. So this is quite important. Probably we have bored you, telling you all of what we have been saying, but it's quite important. Without this, nothing has got a value. This investment is nothing. We had better invest this in other things, like migration, like general assistance to people for energy, or other things like that. I'm just saying that because maybe if you are not able to support this process, eventually the European Parliament could decide that this money is not well spent. Careful also the aerospace community, because without a user, the aerospace community, it has not any chance to exist anymore just in order to support technology. Without any user, no activity at the European level, neither at the international level, has been reason to be supported. I say that as an old dog in policy. So this is the main line we have to keep in our mind.
I'm just closing because I take the point from this, is the fact that I'm always saying, not only at the Prime Minister Cabinet, that they have trust in us. So there's also at national level investment of 4.5 billion. If out of this we will get, nuts, nobody's going to trust us any longer.
Yes, just maybe one thing. There have been, in the last 20 years at least, speaking about myself, two big changes for me. One is professional, one is private. Professional, I think we moved into a dream that was the dream of having Earth observation capacity with dreaming people that were there at the beginning, and had the opportunity to bring it into something operational. The private one is that I have children that are reaching the university age now. And I think now I see that what we build together is also an opportunity for new generations. It's not anymore a dream, it's a tool. But actually this tool has to be used, and we have to prepare people to use it. I think, as was said, maybe, yes, if we came to this audience 10 years ago, who knows GMES Copernicus, we might have had 4 hands at that moment. Now we ask, do you know Copernicus? Maybe everyone will raise their hands, but the academy is something that is not known. So now what is this tool, and the new generations have to be ready to use it, but not just in space. We are not just speaking about space, the space domain, space companies. We are speaking about companies working in agriculture, working in forecast, health, fisheries, and so on. I think there is a big capacity, a lot that can be done, and I think that was presented in particular in the last presentation on the academy, and in preparing the new generation is, in my view, extremely important.
Thanks, Mauro, and that's what, it's the strategy. My presentation was introducing the strategy in Italy. There's a strong strategy in Italy really to prepare new professionals, so a new generation that is, again, I'm closing, this is not rocket science, it's way much more. It's also including rocket science, but it's not only rocket science. And it's important to keep this in mind, because the investment, it's about a wider investment that can go with defense, it can go with agriculture, with cultural heritage, and so on. So thanks to all for the passion, because it's very late, but we started late, so we are not so late. Thanks.
If you kindly take a seat. That's it. We would like to start, otherwise the lunch will become a dinner.
The lunch, yes.
Okay, so I would like to start the session number 4 of this Space Week, related to space program, European Defence Fund and Cassini. As you have seen yesterday, we wanted to offer to you a specific focus on some specific initiative, in particular Cassini, in-orbit demonstration and validation that will be explained by Maria Vittoria Dinzeo of DG DEFIS, the European Commission. And then I think that this is the first time in this kind of workshop. We will have a presentation on the European Defence Fund, and the title is European Defence Fund Opportunity for Funding for Collaborative Projects and Opportunities for SMEs. This is done by Alessandro Gugino. He is also from DG DEFIS of the European Commission. So I would say that I will start immediately, and Maria Vittoria, Mavi, the floor is yours, and you can start the presentation. You should have.
I have it. Hello.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me? Hello, hello. Yes. Good. Well, afternoon. I guess we're running a bit late. As we wait for the room to get filled a little bit, I introduce once again myself. Thank you, Augusto, again for inviting us to present two of the very important initiatives that we have in the frame of both the Horizon Europe program and the Space program. Notably, the Cassini Entrepreneurship Initiative and then in-orbit demonstration and validation. So we start by giving an overview on the Cassini Entrepreneurship Initiative. So this is really a slide that, if you want, summarizes all the opportunities that we have for project and for technology, from new ideas through the hackathons and prizes, through to the development of disruptive technologies that can be supported by European Innovation Council, as we saw yesterday, and the Horizon Europe Cluster 4, through to the testing of the technologies in real condition that allows to have the so-called flight heritage, which is precisely what we provide through the in-orbit demonstration validation service. And then we also support the expansion and growth of the resulting output products with the benefit of the seed and growth facility and the Cassini connecting, of course, with the potential investors and commercial partners through the Cassini Matchmaking and Business Accelerator. So let's start from the Cassini Hackathon. Voilà, as you can imagine, for the in the first part of this, let's say, journey, we support the innovative ideas and the next generation of entrepreneurs and problem solvers, with the view to connect creative young people with different backgrounds to get together and address the challenges that are proposed in the frame of the different hackathons. So far we have had 4 very successful, I have to say, hackathons. So you can see the first hackathon was on the I cannot read, on the digitizing the space services. Then the second one, connecting the Arctic, revisit Europe, and the fourth one was dedicated to financial services. We will have another hackathon in next year, beginning of March, focusing on space for security and defense. And another hackathon is foreseen also for 2023. The challenge is still to be confirmed.
I will not go into a lot of details because this afternoon we will have really a focus on the Cassini Hackathon. As I said, along with the hackathons, we also have prizes. We have an ongoing call for a Cassini Prize for digital space, focusing on maritime. As you can see, the prize is it's a reward, so it's not really an instrument. It's different from actual calls, because the prize is reward, in this case, the best data-driven marine or maritime digital application. So the current prize is open for submissions of application until 3rd of May. I invite you to obviously have a look at the rule of contest, where you will find all the award criteria. And I've added also the link where to find all relevant information. The award will be given to 3 winners with a total prize of 950 each for each of the winner. Then we have another, let's say, prize or competition, which is called the My EU Space Competition. Again, it is open to really also entrepreneurs, startups, scale-ups, university students. It's a contest, and it rewards ideas, prototype, and product that really have market potential and that address really application that use Copernicus and data services and Copernicus data and Galileo signals. It's really aimed at innovation and supporting disruptive innovation, taking benefits of space assets, and there will be 30 awards in total, and the total prize is 1 million. In this case, it's a cumulative prize, so each of the award, the overall prize will have to be split into 30 winners. So there is, as you can see, a webinar is going to be organized very soon. So if you want to register or attend the webinar, please do subscribe. And the call is now open, so please do check online. Also, there are different application deadline for application, depending if you're submitting a proposal for an idea or prototype or a product. Then we have, again, as part of the benefits here offered under the Cassini initiative, we have the Cassini matchmaking, which is really aimed. It's an instrument that has been designed, let's say, to support startup, to support investors and large corporation, with the view to make the link between companies to create potential partnership, commercial partnership, and at the same time to connect the startup, the enterprise, with potential investors, and that's why we call it investor matchmaking. So there is a current call, if you would like. We usually organize a number of matchmaking events. We started in Paris in September this year. We had another matchmaking event in Prague at the occasion of the EU Space Week. We had, a few days ago, a third matchmaking event in Lisbon. And the next actual matchmaking event is going to be here in Rome at the NSC from 1st to 3rd of December. So if you're interested, maybe some of you have already applied. And of course, there will be more matchmaking events in the next year. And in fact, if you would like to participate, if you are an entrepreneur or if you are also a potential investor, please do subscribe to the call. As you can see, the call is open until 15th of January next year to participate in the future matchmaking events. Finally, we have the Business Accelerator. Business Accelerator is a new activity that will kick off in the next week. We are about to sign some a collaboration partnership for the entity that is going to support us in the implementation of the activities. And what does it entail? The Business Accelerator will help and will support young entrepreneurs that have an already product that they want to enter into the market to really develop a business, let's say, a business plan and enter a market. So really to support them in the development of the business plan and sales method. And as you can see, and also they will support in the raising of capital in the private and financial markets and expand their business network. The Cassini Business Accelerator will provide also with a financing voucher of 75,000 to 40 entrepreneurs that will be successful in the Business Accelerator. Unfortunately, I cannot now anticipate many other details because this is the contract are under signature right now, but we will upload more information at the in our website, dedicated website, more or less in the next month. So please have a look and monitor the website. Finally, what we have for the expansion and growth and the access to risk finance, we have, if you want, continued what we started with under Horizon 2020, the so-called Cassini Seed and Growth Funding Facility, which is an instrument that gives access to private capital through venture VC funds. So what we do from the Commission, and again, this is a co-funded activity because it's funding that is taken from the space program, but also and the InvestEU program. That it's a program that regroups all access to finance instruments, and what happens is basically that the Commission invests into VC funds that will later invest into space companies. So we have already signed in the course of past years investment agreements with VC funds. Well, one was Primo Space here based in Italy, but we have also other, Unternehmertum, and other funds that I now do not recall the exact names, but you will find the list of VC funds in which we have invested. You will find it on our website. In fact, I've added also a link. So you can, if you need access to, I mean, funding in terms of equity, we're talking about equity here, you can invest, you can contact directly the list of funds. Most recently, we have signed also investment agreement with two new funds, OTB and V Squared. So obviously, why do we do this facility is really to try and enhance and maximize investment into space companies. But maximize funding not only from the public sector, but also from the private world. So that was all for Cassini. Now, of course, as you saw also in my in the beginning of my presentation, IOD-IOV is also a very important instrument that supports the maturation and the flight by giving the maturation of an initiative or technologies by providing flight heritage to promising technology, with again a view to accelerate time to market of promising technologies. And in fact, This is the objective of our in-orbit demonstration and validation initiative, which is funded under our research and innovation program Horizon. So the objective is really to foster a globally competitive and innovative European space sector by improving support to technology maturation and de-risk innovation, thereby reducing time to market. At the same time, with IOD-IOV, we ensure EU non-dependence because we rely on EU solutions for both the spacecraft that is going to accommodate the aggregated experiment and the launch services. And also through IOD-IOV, one of the objectives is to support high-level European education system by providing the next generation of engineers with hands-on experience in space program. So I'm not going to repeat what I just said. It's just expected outcome. I want to stress once again that the IOD-IOV service, as also stated in our work program, we at least try to provide a cost-effective solution with regular opportunities and regular aggregation for experiments that need to be embarked on a carrier. And this spacecraft needs to be based again on EU solution for spacecraft and launches. And what is the idea is really to have one opportunity per year, to provide to the community at least one opportunity per year during the implementation period of Horizon Europe, which is up to 2027. And we implement the service with our long-time collaborator, ACTR, the European Space Agency. So as an overview, what we have, of course, the IOD-IOV service is broadly open to experiment providers from academia, research centers, SMEs, large industrial companies, space agency. Everyone is really open to everyone, to all innovators. The way in which we define the IOD-IOV experiment is innovative technologies, products, concept architecture, operation technique that require to be tested and validated in orbits, in real cases. So experiments can be instruments, equipment, technologies, system experiment, mission, payloads, and so on. And again, as I was saying, they can be accommodated, they can be provided as needing to be accommodated on a spacecraft or be provided as a complete system that means it is ready to be launched. So the experiment that gets selected will have free of charge access to IOD-IOV service that include aggregation of the experiment on a carrier if this needed, of course. Of course, it will not be needed for the complete system, which will go directly to the launch services and the operation. So just to give you an overview on what the service entails, just an overview on the process and schedule. In between March and May 2022, we launched the first call for expression of interest to gather IOD-IOV experiments that could be considered for the IOD-IOV actions that I just mentioned. We down-selected a number of experiments, and at the same time, in the period June-July, there was the analysis of the received application by independent and ESA experts, and this allowed us to set up a list of pre-selected experiments that would then continue for the next steps. In the meantime, ESA did a preliminary accommodation analysis to identify what could be the possible configuration of the IOD-IOV mission, so be that on a CubeSat or a small-sat platform, and confirm the experiment pre-selection. In the period July to December, then, there was also the, as at July to December, so in July, ESA issued an invitation to tender for the procurement of platform and aggregation services. The ITT is now closed. What we aim to do is to sign at least the first contract from here until the end of the year. And then so that activities for the aggregation of the experiment on the appropriate platform can start, and activities can start starting from 2023. As you can see in the period, let's say, from the call for expression of interest that happened this year, the idea is that ESA will procure on our behalf launch services both for complete system that only need to be launched in orbit and for IODA of emission in the period 23 to 24. And then the actual launch will take place up to 2025, depending on, obviously, the readiness of the experiment. So this is just an overview on process and schedule. Of course, from the next call for expression of interest, you will be able to understand what is going to be the process in the future. So, of course, as for everything, we have some constraints and requirements that we ask to IOD-AOV experiment. These are the requirements that we ask in the call that closed in May. So for experiment needing aggregation, we asked experiment to have a TRL, technology readiness level, of between 5 to 6, be compatible with the resources and interfaces in the range of smallsat and CubeSat missions. Of course, there were some specificities in the call. For the experiments in the formal complete system, one of the requirements is, of course, the compatibility with EU manufacturer launcher solution. All the experiments are expected to be compliant with the overall planning, that is for both flight model delivery and for the launch, as indicated in the call for expression of interest. So in the 2022 call, it was flight model delivery between 23 and 24, and launch services between 23 and 25. But it will be further explained in the upcoming call for expression of interest. And to have an actual commitment from the experiment provider, we ask each applicant to provide a declaration on commitment of flight model delivery as part of the application package. So this slide is just, again, to present, to give an overview on what on the way we selected or pre-selected the experiment. So it all starts with the analysis of the received application on the basis of criteria that are specified in the call for expression of interest. Then those experiments that pass the threshold are pre-selected and will undergo an actual accommodation analysis. And then, considering the available resources, a list of pre-selected experiments will be established. So this is only the first step, because the actual final selection of the experiment is going to be based on for the experiment needing aggregation will be confirmed only after the system design review with the selected prime that will aggregate the experiment. And for the selection of complete system will be based also on flight availability. So, of course, I'm anticipating this because the process is not going to be drastically changed in the future calls. So just for you to better understand the process. Because now let's have a look at what to expect from early 2023. There will be, for sure, new opportunities for the IOD, IOV experiment providers. So for those that, actually develop experiments that need to be tested into orbits, we expect to have a new call starting from early 2023. This time the call will not have an actual deadline for application, but it will be continuously open or permanently open. What we will have cut-off dates, that is some dates when we will evaluate or analyze the application. So it will be most probably be open throughout the Horizon Europe implementation, so until 2027, and there will be cut-off dates on a regular basis. So this opportunity will be both for experiment needing aggregation and for ready-to-fly IOD, IOV satellites that will benefit from a fast-track joint scheme that we are developing with ESA, with also a new co-funding mechanism by both Commission and ESA. So new opportunities also for EU system integrators, that are the companies that aggregate the experiment on the carriers. New opportunities will be, of course, starting from next year. And of course, I put there that it is ESA that does this, because it's ESA that issues the invitation to tender for the procurement of carrier and aggregation services. So keep an eye open on in the upcoming months. And same thing with the EU launch service provider. There will be opportunities. With the flight ticket initiative, we intend to launch a call for expression of interest to select a pool of available EU launch solution that will later compete for each specific contract for the provision of launch services to launch, of course, IOD, IOV. And as I was saying, we are developing this initiative jointly with the European Space Agency. So this concludes my presentation. Again, I remain available for further clarification or question if you have. Thanks a lot. Augusto, back to you.
Thank you very much, Mavi. As usual, very clear presentation. From our point of view, I may say for the Italian Space Agency point of view, this is really a very promising initiative we are discussing with you. And I would like to say that this is also included in the discussion that we are doing with the European Space Agency, because the flight ticket initiative that was described by Mavi is also part of the package that ESA is proposing to its member state for the Ministerial Council that will be held the 22nd of November. This means within 2 weeks. So I don't know if there are questions for Maria Vittoria, for both Cassini and IVND. Otherwise, we can continue with the second point in the agenda, and maybe if you, in the meantime, we'll have some question, we can at the end come back on IVND and Cassini. So now we're talking about EDF, and Alessandro, the floor is yours. And thank you also to you very much for your availability and your participation in presence here in Rome.
Yes, it's working. Thank you, Augusto. Thank you, first of all, ASI APRE for the invitation. My name is Alessandro Gugino. I am the project officer working in the DEFIS Commission. DEFIS stands for Defense, Industry and Space. So these 3 words actually are the key words of my today presentation. I will present to you the industrial opportunities for defense, collaborative research and development in the space domain. The main this, I would say, presentation will be on the ADF, but I have also some slides for further initiatives that we have at the Commission. So, as you can see here, I hope you can see, in the infographic, maybe it's not clear, but the ADF is the European Defence Fund, which is a program in a multi-annual time framework, 7 years from 2021 to 2027. Mainly is a financial support for industry in form of grants. We have 8 billion in total for the 7 years. And those grants are for research and development projects from the consortia that are participating to the call for proposals, with a ratio of 1/3 for the research and 2/3 for the development actions or projects. Now, this grant, this fund is not coming out of the blue. Before the ADF, there was the PIDR, ADIDP. Maybe some of you already heard these acronyms. When we reached 2019, we moved afterwards with the ADF. We were not in the current situation. So now we are facing a very difficult moment because we have also a war in Europe. So I would say the pillars of the program are nowadays much more important to have an European defense. So in this picture, you will see that the ADF program is based on the supports of collaborative and cross-border projects in both research and development on defense technologies and capabilities. It contributes to the competitiveness and innovation capacity of the European defense technological and industrial base, specifically encouraging the participation of small and medium enterprises and other actors that are not usually active in the defense domain. Helps to maximize the outcome of the defense expenditure. So the motto here is to spend more, better, and together. Contributes to reducing the fragmentation of the Europe defense and industrial landscape. Strengthens the European resilience and the strategic autonomy, reducing the EU technological dependencies on the third countries. Contributes, of course, to reducing also the fragmentation of the European defense in the total industrial landscape, and leading to close the gap in the defense technological part. So what about the general principle of the EDF? The EDF is mainly driven by the member states. So member states, and in the EDF we have one associated country, which is Norway. The European Commission, through a structured process, identifies the priority commonly agreed with the member states. The opportunities is both strategical and economical for the Europe. And we are pushing, of course, to find out game changers for EU armed force. The ADF principle of ensuring continuity is based, as said, on the multi-annual plan. So we have a multi-annual plan and a work plan that every year is developed with the member states. And in terms of the multi-annual plan, the idea is to have a long-term perspective of the main expected outcomes. Finally, inclusiveness, as you can see on the slides, fair opportunities, support innovative ideas, all those are, amongst others, the EU added value of the European Defence Fund. Now, let's move more to what is the ADF. So, ADF has several categories of actions. Actions are projects, which are addressed by annual work programs and call for proposals. So you see here all the 15 categories that address specific topics. Amongst those, you see there are the call for space and space-related actions, but also, it's difficult to see, but On the bottom, there are horizontal categories, which are the disruptive technologies and the open call. Also, in those calls, we have received last year proposal related to the space domain. So I will show later on in some slides those projects. But exactly for the space, there is one specific topic for space, and then the horizontal categories for disruptive technologies and innovative defense technologies for small and medium enterprises. So here we have the space category of action. So what does it mean? So we have this multi-annual perspective, 7 years. The intention is to reach at the end the expected outcomes, as said. And for space, dedicated for space, we have targeted 4 main areas. So we have SSA and early warnings. We have the PNT superiority, so including also the naval war, the secure connectivity, and the space-based ICR. So all these 4 areas are moving towards the outcomes that you can see on the slides, which are the joint procurement for the integration of the PRS receivers, so for Galileo PRS receivers in the military system, the joint procurement of SSA capabilities interface with EU SST, the space-based early warning prototype, the space-based ICR constellation prototype, and regarding the secure connectivity, we are now working on that because in the last year we did not receive, we did not move forward on that, but there are potential synergies with the space connectivity constellation that are going in further analysis. Before to move to the next slide, so the overall 8 billion for the EDF, 10% of the budget of the EDF is dedicated to space. So here you have, in one big slide, a lot of information, but actually you can see for this here, so for the work program 2022, the total amount is 924 million euro, 33 topics. We have the opening of the goals was in June this year. Before the opening of the goal, there was the Info Day. In one slide, I will provide you the information also on that. During the Info Day, we provide much more information than these slides or this presentation, which is cut for space. So I will really suggest you to have a look to the Info Day, and when it will come is around the end of June, before the opening of the goals. And unfortunately, I'm here a little bit late because the call for the proposal of this year is in 2 weeks. So maybe most of you are already working harder to provide your proposal. So in 24th of November, the deadline is for the submission, and then we will start the commission, the evaluation of the proposal. So what about space? In space, we have in the thematic call 3 topics. I will go further in detail in the next slide. But then we have also for disruptive technologies and SME potential participation for space-related calls. So for the space thematic, as you can see here, we have 2 dedicated calls for development action. One is for the ICR, so the innovative multi-sensor space-based Earth observation capabilities towards persistent reactive ISR, and also the space-based missile early warning. You see that for those thematic calls, as well as for the research one, the max number of winning projects are 1 for each. And the research action is related to the RSS. So those are really the thematic one. They have the specific scope. So in the call for tender, for the grant, you will find all the information. But we have also to highlight the call that are open SME, like the lump sum development action for SME. In this case, we are talking about innovative technologies and solution for defense. And we have also other two research action, always open to non-thematic one. In this case, as you can see, there is no maximum number of projects. We have a dedicated target for each call, and inside of the goal, we have a target of 4 million euro per proposal. Now, I want to give you some more facts. So I will move now to these two slides to report to you what was done in the time frame of 2019-2020 during the IDDP, so the precursor program of the ADF, and the ADF itself. So in these slides, you will find the project that has been. Some of those are ongoing and some are finished. So we have GEOD, which was in effect in the ADP 2019, which was developed the European Galileo PRS, navigation receiver capabilities for military purposes. Then we had the Sauron in the 2020, which was mainly the sensor for future multi-orbit and sensor in SSA for military application, of course. And Integral, still in the IDP 2020. In this case, we are the project is exploited SSA data to provide a military space picture, as you can see on the slide. And finally, Odin Size is a space-based missile rewarding architecture. So those are examples of a space project that has been funded with the ADIDP in the time frame of 1920. Then for the 2021, which was the first batch of the ADF, at the moment we are under negotiation, so meaning that we are finalizing the grant agreement with the consortia that has been awarded for those. So I reported here for the space action Navguard, which is a new project for ground-based naval war surveillance, and EPW, so which is a project to study a waveform for against jamming for resilient SATCOMs. Now, before was related to the space thematic action. What was done for the open calls in the IDDP? We had a very winning story. So Optis, starting in 2019, was leading to develop a high performance small satellite payload. So we are talking about payload and new technologies in the defense application. The result was so amazing that they moved forward with the new project in NEMOS in 2020, defining a small satellite constellation to provide near real-time surveillance for ESR defense. Pioneer was also part of the ADIDP 2019, space-based Earth is also observation and SSA. And this last year, so now under negotiation, we receive a lot of proposal in the open calls. So here I will not go through, but you can see that there were 6 projects that has been awarded related to the space domain. I will give you a short zoom view on the eligibility condition. In the call text for proposal, you will find more information. There are several constraints, of course, to apply. In terms of eligibility, the consortia that will apply for the ADF must be at least 3 eligible entities from 3 different member states and or Norway. For the disruptive call, this has been reduced to 2 due to the scope of the call. In terms of recipients and main subcontractors, so infrastructure, facilities must be located in EU or Norway. Then we will, at the Commission, check in terms of eligibility condition of non-controlled by third countries, entities, as well as the restriction, no restriction or no control by third countries, entities on use of outcomes and resulting capabilities. Amongst those, there are also checks on ethics, and this is quite important, so the consortium is also providing a self-assessment on the ethics and the compliance with international law. This is mainly for the research. Then when we move to development action, so to goals related to develop project. So here we have co-financing that is requested, harmonization, defense capability at least agreed by 2 member states or Norway for the design. And we also request intention to procure and common technical specification for system prototyping and beyond. I will not provide much more information. This is just a zoom on the eligibility part, but then there is also a financial condition, so there are a lot of constraints. But there is a slide that I will give you in the presentation with the links on more information. So since we like also numbers, I try to provide also some info regarding the funding rates. So there are two different scheme here. So regarding the research actions, here we have the EU funding rate at 100%. So for all the activities, as you can see here, studies, design, the funding is 100%. When we are moving to development action, then there is a maximum funding rate. It is according to the bonuses that I will show you in a nutshell. And you see, according to the activities that you have, there will be different baseline funding rates. The funding rate mechanism has been developed in order to incentivize the co-financing and to have a leverage effect. So here you see the bonuses that are bring for each activities in development action up to 100% of maximum funding rate. When we are moving to the bonus system, here we have 3 main examples of these bonuses. So the first one is the PESCO. So the PESCO is the permanent structured cooperation. When we receive a call where there is a direct link to the PESCO, this is not considered as an award criteria, but as a bonus. So the value of the bonus is 10% of all activities in the action. Then we have additional 2 bonuses for the mid-cap and the SME. This is indeed to incentivize the participation of the small, medium enterprises and the mid-caps. So for the mid-caps, the percentage of the eligible cost allocated to the mid-caps established in the EU and Norway can reach up to the 15%, will lead to a 10% of bonus for the activity. For the SME bonus is quite a little bit more complicated because here we have a percentage of the eligible cost allocated to the SME established in the EU, which can reach and to be equal or reach more than 10%. Here is the value of the bonus will be a partial percentage of the eligible cost allocated to non-cross-border SME established in the EU and Norway, plus 2 times the percentage of eligible cost allocated to the cross-border SME, again established in the EU and Norway. Now, it seems, I understand it's in a short time quite complicated, but when you apply for that, you will receive the tool. So there is a dedicated tool to count all these bonuses. So it will go quite straightforward. Now, I will also introduce 2 additional points. Those are, in effect, the additional, I would say, innovation activities that we are establishing in our directorate. So the first is the UDIS, so the European Defence Innovation Scheme. And here we have, in effect, the intention to promote startups and SME to participate to this innovation scheme. So here we have 5 tracks that are intended to help the innovators from the early stages, so from the, I would say, the first tracks on the slides, up to the development phase of the product and the technologies. So the aim of the UDs is to build a stronger defense innovation ecosystem. And I will give you a short introduction of these five tracks. The first one is to test all the ideas in the hackathons that has already been presented by Mavi, and also technological challenges. This is our part of the call of proposal in the Work Package 2022. The second track is more on the test and acceleration of the innovation. So this will support collaborative research and development activities and offer acceleration services to startups and SME to access testing, mentoring, and other opportunities. Then moving to the third track, we have I would say, is more dedicated to the business portfolio. So here we are talking about spin calls, which has been also presented in the work program. The intention here is to bring what is done already in the civilian sector to the defense. The intention of this scheme is to allow embracing the potential of the dual-use topic without the risk of unnecessary duplication. The fourth track is relating to the financial part, so to get access to the loan guarantees or equity funding to finance the growth of the business, of the consortia that will apply. And the last one is to find the partners during the matchmaking activities. So in this case, during the info day, at the end of the info day, as we have today, we will have the B2B discussion. And in this case, we try to connect all the different stakeholders in order to move forward with the consortia. So this is still part of the ADF, but there are other opportunities in terms of innovation scheme. And my last one slide has been already presented by Mavi, is the Cassini Hackathon number 5. So this is a space for defense and security that will take place next year in March. But there will be others who will come also from the defense sector. So as promised, here you have all the information, all the links in order to participate to the ADF, to UDs, to all the activities that we are promoting, because as said also this morning, it's important to communicate to all of you that there are these potential financial activities that you can apply for. And I think that it's important also to have such discussion with you in order to be part of the ADF and further activities. So thank you very much for your attention.
Grazie. Thank you very much, Alessandro, for your presentation. Okay, I have a lot of questions, but maybe it's not the right time to just a curiosity, and then before giving the floor to the audience, I'd like to ask a question also to the audience. So the question for you is, if possible, if you may tell something to us regarding the Italian participation to the previous call, I mean to the calls that have been already closed. Is there a strong Italian participation? There is a good result in terms of a contract given to Italy?
Yes, so in the precursor projects, so ADIDP and PIDR was a lot of course participation from Italy. I read yesterday also an article regarding ADF and the strong participation of Italy. I will not mention the company, but probably everybody knows. Yes, indeed. So the collaboration with the Italian member states, it's going very well during the work program, because again, the member states are defining the priorities that is agreed with us. And so the participation of Italian companies and consortia is quite high, yes.
So there is same kind of participation that we have also in the space sector.
Exactly,
in,
yes, yes. But at the end, I mean, it's reliable, the limit between defense and the space activities. So, voilà.
So this means that our community, that you are quite active in both sectors. And this is something very important from our point of view. Now, just a question to all of you. Did already someone of you have participated to the info day that was done in Rome, no? In Segre Difesa?
It was done, no, the info day was done this June in Brussels. So we had our...
But you made another one in Italy, in Rome, in Segre Difesa?
Maybe, yes.
Maybe I'm wrong. Okay. No, in any case, the question is, okay, I see only one person maybe. Okay. Okay, no, thank you for this. And no, okay, so now the floor is yours. If you have a question for both of them, Cassini, IOD on EDF, before going to have the lunch, it's now 1:30.
Hi, Del Bufalo, Cassa Depositi e Prestiti. I will be very, very fast. Two questions, actually. The first one, as far as I understood, the call for proposal for EDF are being closed very soon, so by the end of this month.
Correct.
So when the next one will happen, so do you have an idea or a timeline and so on? Second question, what about budget? So the EDF, which is the EDF budget, as far as research activities and development activities, and over the next year how could be developed, so which is the expectation in that sense. Thank you.
So in effect, the work program, the multi-annual plan, and all the activities that we are doing is quite repetitive. So as this year, also next year, we are targeting to open the goal in June. So for this year, we are closing in 2 weeks. Then in June next year, we will open again for the goals. And the consortia will have 4 or 5 months to provide as this year. So we'll close November next year. This is the target. Regarding the budget, so for this year, we have I already presented 900 million euro. So every year during the discussion with the member states in this program committee, the budget is identified. It depends also on the thematic that has been identified for the year. So in the first slide, I present to you 15 thematics. This year we will have 14. So our missile has not been pushed forward because there was no interest from the member states. So it depends on the topics that has been identified as a priority, and then the budget is based on what will be for each course, and also some additional that are coming from the past year. So if we have some leftover from the year before, this will be top up in the budget of the year after.
The constraints on the...
again, otherwise maybe someone who is...
Okay, I repeat. Okay.
Thank you very much.
So, concerning non-thematic call dedicated to small enterprise, there is a rule about, a constraint about research center participation. In sense that is written that if they are research center, they cannot take more than 40% of the budget, but it's not specified if the constraint is the budget or is the number of research centers. I would say that I don't know if it's one research center that can participate and it doesn't have to take more than 40%, or 40% is the constraints, and then more than one research center can participate but not exceed this budget.
Yeah, okay, so in terms of consortia, there is no limitation of the numbers of participants. So I answer to your question, there can be much more than one research center. You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
aspetti il microfono. Yes.
What about the participation of industrial partner instead in this dedicated to small enterprise?
Yeah, so just to clarify it all, so the open calls, as said, are for SME. And the main constraint here is that SME, so the small medium enterprise, must be coordinator. So meaning that while the others can be also the big gun, I would say, as a coordinator for the SME must be a coordinator. Otherwise, it's really a condition to participate. Yes, of course, it can be, but cannot be the coordinator. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your questions. Anyone else? So maybe we can consider close this session, and maybe now we have the possibility of starting with the lunch in the same place where we had yesterday. So thank you very much for your participation, and it has been really a pleasure to have all of you here with us in Italian Space Agency, and I hope that we will continue to have this kind of opportunity with all of you, and also with clearly with person coming from the European Commission to explain to us.